Good morning, everybody. We have a special treat. Our guest for today is Dr. Anya Bazzell. She is a board certified family medicine physician and reproductive health specialist, currently working in Atlanta, Georgia. And she is going to share with us today her very unique path through medicine and also how she's using her position to provide influence to the community and relay her reproductive health specialty knowledge and insights to her patients. Thank you, Dr. Bazzell, for joining us today.
Thank you, Dr. Osuji.
No problem. So I usually start these talks by kind of asking, how did you find yourself in medicine? What brought you on your path?
Yeah, so thank you for having me. I grew up in
Yeah.
a multi-generational household where I lived with my parents, my brothers, and my maternal grandparents. And so I was able to see what it was like to navigate the healthcare field with difficulty because my mom had to take my grandparents to all of their doctor's appointments. There wasn't always a great deal of transparency in what was going on. There wasn't a high level of health literacy in my home. We did our best, but no one in our immediate family was a doctor. So we didn't have anyone to really run things by and get specialized advice. And also the limited number of Black doctors that my grandparents could see for what they needed was an issue. So I saw all of that and I decided that I wanted to do something and live a life where I could kind of fill a void that I saw growing up that really impacted us. And I just thought, what way can I help my community, people who look like me, who could possibly be facing the same issues? I think it's a great idea to become a physician and to help fill that void. So that's where I was exposed to medicine. I was exposed to medicine from a standpoint of lack, and I wanted to be there for my family and for others.
That's very, very amazing. Tell me a little bit about, or just your early path. Actually, you can even start from high school.
Mhm.
Did you feel prepared to enter into the realm of getting on the track to becoming a physician, entering medical school, that kind of a thing?
So leaving high school, I thought I was prepared. I felt like a lot of other pre-meds did. I was at the top of my class. I think it was in the top 10, and it was definitely top fifth percentile. And I had over a 4.0 GPA. I did well in all of my classes. I was doing AP and honors, community service, all of that. I felt like I was ready. But when I got to Boston University, I was in for such a rude awakening. And it wasn't necessarily just the course material, because, we have to take the basic sciences, the core
Mhm,
sciences in high
mhm,
school. But it was the fact that there was so much more of it all at once. And
mhm.
we had grade deflation. So there was this New York Times article about Boston University and how they are a non-Ivy League school among a sea of Ivy League schools, and they practice grade
Mm,
deflation to try to make it so that their program was more competitive. That was a
mhm.
major issue. There were so many people who started out pre-med and who did not finish pre-med. It was wild to see that number drastically decrease from the first day on campus to our last day on campus. We also had a lot of pre-med advisors who just felt like haters. They just felt like they didn't want us to succeed.
Oh
I don't know if it
gosh.
was only the Black students. I can only speak for myself and my other Black colleagues' experiences with them, but there was never anything helpful that they did or said. I don't know if it was the fact that they really didn't think we could do it, or I felt I was going to be prepared, but I was not prepared at all. And I think that kind of experience can hit smart individuals hard because you think, oh, I'm at the top of my class. I'll be fine in college. It's different. And especially if you throw in other confounding factors like racism, people who just don't want to see you succeed, grade deflation. We had a lot of different things going on at Boston University that made it hard for a lot of us to get out. I can count on one hand the number of people I personally know who were pre-med at BU and actually are physicians today. That's not great.
Wow. And so tell me though, because your case is actually kind of interesting because you actually studied African American studies at BU. Is that right?
I did. So my GPA there was tanking. And so I said, I need to get out of here and I need to recalibrate and figure out how I can become a doctor in the midst of all that's going on here. So the first thing I need to do is graduate and graduate on time. I am from Massachusetts, but I grew up in Georgia. I was cold. I was ready to go. So I changed my major to history and I changed my minor to African American studies so that I could get my GPA back up, finish the pre-med courses that I had to do, but stop with the whole I'm a biology major. You don't have to do that in order to go to medical school. You just have to finish your prerequisites. So when I learned that, I pieced out of the biology major and I studied something
Yeah.
that is of vast interest to me, which is history. I'm a history buff. And also, I wanted to get my African American studies on because we built this country, but we don't get to learn about our history in primary school. So I definitely wanted to, and of course, my parents taught me at home because I wanted to get more formal education in that matter. So I changed my major and my minor, and I kept my track as pre med.
It's so funny because I didn't know that before I approached you for this. And you're such a huge advocate for the African American community. And I was like, this makes
Period.
so much sense. This makes so much sense now. And I think it's so cool. Your path, it's such a great example of how you don't have to do biology. Myself, I did biology. Most of our colleagues did biology. In some respects, I kind of regret it. It was kind of the quote unquote fastest and most sure way as a pre-med student, but there's so many other things that if you have an interest in, you'll never have the opportunity to really explore again that you would have had
Right.
in college. Everything that we see in the biology prerequisites, it's all covered in the first 2 weeks of med school. So it's just kudos to you. That's such an amazing path that you took.
Thank you.
How would you advise maybe college students? I think this is such a big think piece, just
Hmm.
the notion of not necessarily falling within the box of being a biology major. I'm sure there are a lot of aspiring physicians, pre-medical students, pre-allied health students that think, oh, well, I have to do biology to be
Hmm.
on this path. You're an excellent example that that's not necessarily true. So can you talk a little bit more on what support systems did you have in place to ensure that you were getting all that you needed to do well on your prerequisites so that you were adequately prepared for when you made the transition into medical school? And also, just what did that look like? Was there pushback? And if so, how did you counter that?
Good question. There are certain parts of my journey that I literally don't remember. And some of
Yeah.
that is because I push it away because of
Yeah.
the pain it caused. With this
Yeah.
situation, I do not recall who told me that I could change my major. I don't remember. But what I did start doing and what I do remember is that I would go to the pre med office to get little trinkets of information whenever I
Mm.
could and take away what was helpful and what would assist me in my strategy. Any of the negative stuff, I would go in there telling myself I was pre-prepared to block it out and I would only focus on what they could give me. So when I spoke to them, I would ask them about the prerequisites. I would double check myself, make sure that I had signed up for the appropriate classes. I would ask them the average score that I would need to get into med school. And then I would walk away from them. So again, I don't recall who told me that I could change my major, but once I did, I did. I would schedule little check ins every once in a while
Mhm.
just to make sure I had the other things on track.
Okay, that's so good. So, just making sure, even though you were doing maybe something different from a lot of the other pre-med students, you still had a means of checking to make sure that you were on track to get to where you needed to go.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's so good. Were there other students that you were able to connect with? Were you in a pre-med society?
I was in MAPS. Remember MAPS? I was in the Minority
Yeah.
Association of Pre-Medical Students. I was the community
I
service
thought
chair.
that was only a Howard
No, girl, it's NAP
thing.
chapters.
That's insane.
Yes. Your face. You're like,
I was really?
Yes.
Oh,
I was
wow.
in I was in MAPS, and so I had a couple of people who would talk to me, and I would talk to them about their journeys and what was going on. I remember Francesca Okoli, shout out to Dr. Okoli, who met me at a pizza shop one day and just encouraged me and told me to keep going. And then there was Tanya Bascom, who hooked me up with a research job at Brigham and Women's. When she graduated, she told them about me because I let her know I was interested. And that was something amazing that I could put on my CV. I was born there and then I got to work there as a research associate. So we definitely had a conglomerate of people that we could check in with and see how things were going and encourage each other and give each other tips and tricks of the trade and share job listings and research opportunity openings. I think there were some people within our group who were not biology majors. I'm pretty sure most of them were, but we definitely talked about all of the things.
Got it. So it sounds like also having community was very instrumental in terms of giving you more perspective, giving you even experience and opportunities that you might not have even known about. That's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. At every stage in residency, you were my community. So I think
Shout out to community.
in our
Yes.
net. uh,
Our school of PR.
yes, Crystal School of PR. Listen, she got me together, y'all. But yes, I think that community is so important for us at every single stage, especially if you're struggling. Especially if you're struggling, you don't want to feel like you're the only one. You want a safe space where you can ask questions and figure it out.
Yeah, that's so good. Tell me what the end of your time at BU looked like because you took some time between your transition into medical school. So, what did that look
Mhm.
like? How did you prepare for that? And did you know you were going to take a gap time? How did all that come fall into place?
So by junior year at BU, I knew that I was not ready to go to medical school. I didn't even take the MCAT while I was in, did I? No, I didn't even take the MCAT while I was undergrad. I decided, okay, you're not going straight to medical school. That's fine. That's not your testimony. Most of the people around you are not going straight to medical school. So that helped too.
Mm.
So what are you going
Mm-hmm.
to do about it? What's the next step? Do you still want to do this? If so, we need to re strategize. I think that a lot of people, especially in this new age of TikTok generation, everything happens so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't understand that the trajectory can be long and slow. I was okay with that because I had a vision for my life. And so I decided my senior year to apply to the Morehouse School of Medicine Masters of Public Health program. And I felt like that would
Mm-hmm.
prepare me and assist me with being an even better doctor, someone who's even more plugged into the community and what my community members need. And I was right. And I applied to three programs. I got into all of them and I went to Morehouse and I just, okay, this is the next step. I'm getting out of the cold. I am going back home where I have even more support and I will continue my journey there.
Was there anything that you think helped you in terms of the application process for your master's?
I think being a good writer helped me a lot and also having had this different path because when
Mm-hmm.
I went to my interview at Morehouse, we talked about history, we talked about redlining, we talked about Jim Crow, segregation, all of those things
Mm-hmm.
and how the trickle down effect impacted the Black American community specifically and how that led to public health crisis. So they really appreciated my lens because of my different path. So I think me changing my major and me being a great writer was really
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. And that's also another, solid example of how people are interested in somebody because they're not the cookie cutter pre-med biology, did the 4 years of residency, then went and did the
Mhm,
traditional. So that's awesome. So we're now through the MPH. What was the
mhm.
next step for you?
So during my MPH, actually, I decided that I needed to retake some of my prerequisite courses because, again, grade deflation, my science GPA looks ridiculous. It's in the
Uh,
trash. So I enrolled at a local college that was affordable. And I said,
mhm.
okay, while I'm taking my second year of Masters of Public Health classes, I'm enrolling at this school so I can retake some of my prerequisites. I didn't take physics while I was at BU because I just felt like y'all are not going to mess up my
Not-
GPA. I took physics 1 and 2 at the same time.
What?
The Yes, the
The
director of the
audacity.
physics, listen, I was on a mission. The director of the physics department came to me and said, "Do
What
you know what you're doing?"
the
And I
ma'am?
said, "This is what I need to do. I'm trying to be somebody, and I need you to get on board."
Wow.
I guess you can. There's no rule saying you can't, but you would need to understand that my class is a prerequisite for physics too. I was like, I can count. I see 1, 2. I understand,
Ah,
but I need to do this
wow.
at the same time right now. I have limited time. I don't have time to waste. So we're doing this.
Ah,
I didn't even tell my public health director that I was doing this
wow.
because of the feedback I had already received from some of my classmates. I told them, yeah, guys, I'm trying to get into med school. So I'm going to go
Mhm.
take some prereqs at a local college. And they're like, Anya, you're in your second year of public health school. You're writing your thesis. You have 2 research positions right now. That's a lot. That's not a good idea. And I said, okay, I know what I need. I know what I need to do. I know what my goal is. I'm doing this. And so I took those classes. I completed my master's of public health. I was a valedictorian. I finished out my research jobs and I increased my GPA with taking those prerequisites all in the same year. It was wild, but it was what I needed to do. And I feel like it was worth it. But it still was not enough to get me into medical school.
Do tell.
So I needed to raise my GPA even more. I decided to go straight to the horse's mouth. Now, in public health school, they would tell us, hey, a lot of people have tried to come through this program in the past and use it as a means to get into the medical school. We want you all to be in the field in public health, and that's it. And I just felt like
Mm-mm.
I don't like that messaging. This is my
Mhm.
opportunity. I'm paying to be here. So I will use this opportunity and leverage it however I see fit. These are my goals. Now, what everybody else is
Mm.
doing, that's got nothing to do with me. I'm in my own lane, in my own path. So I will use this opportunity to go to medical school. I was always off in the other building, talking to the med students, schmoozing with them, trying to figure out how to get in. One of the public health
Mhm.
participants told me how to go to Grady's so I could get some shadowing experience. She hooked that up for me because she was already a medical doctor. So I was definitely working the system, but I needed to raise my science GPA even more. So I went straight to the admissions office. And this is something I tell a lot of students to do. Ask them to review your application and see what they think is missing. Get the information straight from the horse's mouth and do what they say. They told me about a Master's of Science program at the Georgia campus of Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. And they said, go there, do the 2-year program. That will give you even more experience with the upper level science classes. And then you can come to us. And some might say, oh, you could have done all of this at Boston University. No, because at Boston University, the way that they were teaching, the way that they were deflating our grades, it was not working for me. And I would have had to redo all of this anyway. So I just decided to do it in a master's program. And finally, that was what I needed to boost my science GPA and to get me into medical school.
That's really remarkable. Like, it seems like you just had like a lot of really solid insight, just in terms of knowing this is not going to work here. Maybe I better do this here. I better pivot here. I better make this the most of this opportunity here. And that's really remarkable because oftentimes I feel like that's the difference between a lot of students that are able to break in, and especially with how it's just getting sanely competitive. It was competitive before, but it's just the numbers are just incredible nowadays in terms of
Yes.
the odds of getting into med school. You made several amazing points, but the one that really stood out to me was your point of leveraging your situation and going and making the most of the people that you had around you to optimize your application, going straight to the admissions office, going straight to the medical students so they knew you, putting your name out there, putting your face out there so that they knew you, so that when your application came across, this is not like a random person. This is somebody who we've talked to. This is somebody familiar. This is somebody that we want to get to really give a chance. So
I
I
was
think
working the room.
that's, yes, it speaks so much to the power of networking.
Mhm.
What's on paper is always going to count, but sometimes it's just
Yeah.
not enough. And your experience really speaks to that.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, absolutely. All right. So now you've gotten your master's times two and you're in. How did that feel? And how was your first day like at Morehouse? Oh,
I definitely cried when I got in. I was so elated because I just felt like all those years of work and just running myself into the ground, especially during the second year of my MPH program, all of that came to a head and I got blessed with this opportunity. So I was very excited. My first day was great. I got straight to work with studying and it was everything that I thought it would be. It was, especially in terms of the workload. So I was ready and I was just I was just running on
for sure.
such a high. I look back and I
Hmm.
think, how did I have the energy to do all of that?
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that I did at that time and that I withstood all of what it took. Because if you asked me to do all of that within a day now, I'm just like, no way. There's no way.
Yeah, I could only imagine. Like, physics one nearly took me out by itself. Physics one and two,
Listen,
and two research positions and an MPH, ma'am,
and a
ma'am,
thesis.
and a thesis. Lord,
Wild.
but I guess you
Wild.
gotta do what you gotta do, and you did it. You did it.
By any means necessary. That's my life's motto. If I want it,
That-
guess what?
Clearly, you're gonna get it. And we love that for you. We love that for you over here. Tell me, I guess with so much energy and, such staunch determination, did you
Mhm.
feel like at any point you had any challenges going through your medical education? Or did you just feel like, I put my head to my books and some people, they just put their head to their books and the 4 years went and some people struggled and some people have photographic memories. I've kind of talked to all kinds of people.
Yeah, I experienced major challenges starting year two. That is when the amount of information became just so overwhelming. And
Hmm.
I was having difficulty with figuring out the best way for me to study. And I've always by with standardized exams, but I have never been that kind of person who's acing them and just doing
Hmm.
super well. And so I had issue with step one. I
Hmm.
failed that thing and I had to stop with my third year rotations and sit out
Hmm.
and study. I've been
Hmm.
speaking to students about this ever since I graduated medical school in 2020. And this is the part of my life that I've definitely forgotten pieces of because of how horrible it went. And a student
Hmm.
had to remind me just the other week that I took that test 4 times. I thought I took it 3. She was like, Dr. Bazzell,
Wow.
on your blog post, you said it was 4. I was like, oh, it was 4. That's crazy.
Wow.
But yes, it was that many times I had to appeal in front of my president after a committee full of people denied me the opportunity to take it a fourth time. I had to appeal in front of my president, Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice, and she gave me a chance. She said, you know what? I like how you came in here determined. You came in here with all of your evidence of what's been going on. You seem to really, really want this. Let's do it. So my school had this wonderful teacher, Dr. Aaliyah Johnson, and Is it okay if I'm name dropping like this? I just feel like these people deserve their
Yeah,
flowers. Okay.
please do.
She was the first teacher in that school second year who emailed me and said, "Hey, you're not in trouble. I just want to help you and see what's going on." So working with her, I got through my second year classes. I didn't have to decelerate, which is to take the year over the course of 2 years. I didn't feel like
Mhm.
decelerating would have helped me. And that's basically the only option that other people had been offering me, especially one particular academic advisor who does not even have her medical degree. We will not name her, but that's all that she could really offer me. No study strategies, just decelerate, take the second year over the course of 2 years. I needed
Oh
study
God.
strategy. I needed technique. I needed to learn how to take exams, how to get the information together and put it forward on a test.
Mhm.
Taking everything over 2 years would not have given me strategy. It would have just made me go slower, which some
Mhm.
say could have helped. But at the end of the day, I need to learn how to take tests and how to synthesize information in a way that I could put it back out on a test. So I worked together with Leah Johnson, and she randomly found out that we had a test taking strategist at my school this whole time. He was locked
Wow.
away working in the IT department because he had said something to offend someone. So they didn't let him with students. And he worked with students at other schools in North Carolina. And he was like this master at helping medical students and residents alike stay in their programs. He had this entire strategy and he was really good at making sure that people did not get dismissed. So he and Dr. Johnson worked with me and we worked tirelessly until I passed that exam on my final attempt. And then I'm back in school and I finished. And using his strategy, I have not failed any other exams. Step one, that's basic
Ah.
sciences. Step one is basic sciences. It is what it is. What happened, happened. I take full responsibility for not passing it, but I also take full responsibility for bossing up and doing what I needed to do to get past that part in my journey. And with using the strategies I learned, I've been able to pass all of the other exams on the first try. And I feel like those exams are more important because they are clinical, especially, of course, the boards. So that
Yes,
is
ma'am.
how
Yes, ma'am.
medical
Yes,
school went.
ma'am. Yes. Snap, snap. Stand on that. Outside of tests, do you feel like you had any other
Mhm.
challenges in medical school?
Mm,
You did.
I don't think I did because that just took up so much of it. Once I was, you know what? No, I had imposter syndrome. Once I got back into my
Mm,
rotation, I just felt weird because I had
mhm,
been sitting out for basically a year retaking this exam. I'm now with a new class
mhm,
of students. I know I'm not going to graduate with my class that I began with. And I'm just sitting there in rotations thinking, can I really do this? Am I good enough? You
mhm.
know, I passed the
Yeah.
exam on the first try. And again, it's a basic sciences exam, not a clinical one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just second guessed all of my thoughts. I second guessed all of my assessments and plans for patients. And it wasn't until the end of third year when I was on family medicine that I felt like, okay, I can do this.
Mhm.
I know what I'm talking about. I know this information. I am a great clinician.
And so you said, like, by the end of third year, you kind of started feeling like you got this. You were able to make a way, find a way around imposter syndrome. It's such a prevalent phenomenon in medicine.
Hmm.
Like, I feel like we all
Hmm.
deal with it at some point or
Sure.
other. How did you find your way around it?
I kept working at it. I kept showing up instead of
Mm,
thinking about the embarrassment. Oh, is everyone staring at me? Does everyone know what happened with me? I decided to
mm,
push that to the side whenever it would come to my mind. And I would show up daily and I would work. Feedback that I received from attendings, whether it was nice or not, I would take it under advisement and do what I could to do better. That's how
so good.
I got through it. And my dad reminded me, listen, you are practicing medicine. That's why they call it practicing medicine. You are practicing
Mm,
and you have to keep showing up in order to get better. And you will get better, but you have to give yourself grace and give yourself time. What happened was traumatic and you have to get through that.
mhm, mm. So it sounds like the combination of support and then you also just showing up and putting in the work consistently
Definitely.
kind of help
Definitely.
remedy. Yeah, that's amazing. Tell me about transition into after medical school. Because I know you took
Yeah.
I know there was some time there as well that had to be taken and there are opportunities for reflection there as well. So tell me a little bit
Yes,
about that.
definitely. I did not match right after medical school. I took a gap year. I really wanted to match into OBGYN and family medicine people. Please don't come for me. I've already dealt with that. It's okay for me to say that I wanted to be an OBGYN and I dual applied. Okay.
Mm,
But I did not get a lot of support from the OBGYN faculty at my institution, unfortunately. When I
mhm,
say I did not fail any more exams after step one, I mean I did not fail any more board exams, little practice ones, shelf exams. I struggled
mhm,
with the three of them
mhm,
after I got back into school after passing step one. OBGYN was
mhm,
one of them. I
mhm,
felt
mhm,
difficulty with working all day and then going home and trying to prepare for an exam. That was something I had
mhm,
not dealt with before. And so I needed to figure out how to live that kind of lifestyle. I passed the
mhm,
exam second try, and the OBGYN faculty just didn't feel like they wanted to support me in my application. So they refused to write me letters of recommendation for
mhm,
residency, which is weird. And sometimes it does bother me, but whatever. I wish everyone well. And I mean that. But I
mhm.
applied to way more OBGYN programs than I did family medicine programs. I dual applied the first time I applied to. And so I did not match. And I was disappointed. My strategy for that year was to graduate and to get into a better mental state. And I did that. And so while I was sad I didn't match, I was elated that after everything I had been through, I graduated from medical school. And I knew that if I had done that, I'd get my residency at another time. And so I ended up getting this really amazing opportunity with the CDC Foundation to go to Martha's Vineyard and to be the head of their COVID response team for the Wampanoag Native American tribe. It was incredible. My mom went with
Mm.
me. We got to live on an island away COVID during a time where COVID was
Yeah.
rampant. And I just felt like that was God's protection of me. And I had an incredible experience. I made amazing money. I paid off immediate debt and got myself in a position where I could have savings to prepare for my next step, which would be residency. I also got to save money because during that year, we were not traveling back and forth to different places, spending money on
Mhm.
airfare and hotels to get to and from interviews for residency. So that was a blessing as well.
Yeah.
I got to do all of my residency interviews from the comfort of my own living room. Again, I dual applied to
Mhm.
in family medicine, and I got family medicine.
Amazing, amazing. Can you tell me a little bit about how did you land such an amazing opportunity?
I don't recall how I came across the CDC Foundation's information, but I did, and I kept putting in applications almost daily. And I
Mhm.
also
Mhm,
reached
mhm,
out to their recruiter and I said, "Hey,
mhm,
I haven't got any hits yet. What's going on?" And she said,
mhm,
"Well, let me look over your CV." And so she looked over it
mhm.
and she edited it for free and sent it back to me and
Wow.
started sending those out instead. Yep. So again,
Mhm.
leveraging opportunities and connections. And finally, there was an
Yes.
opportunity that I was great for. And the tribe wanted me to come out and they needed someone with flexibility who could move right away. And I said, okay. They gave me about 7 days to get to the island. And I did.
That's amazing. Okay.
Yep.
So you finish your year at Martha's Vineyard and
Mhm.
you're now gearing up to get into your training in New York. Tell me about how was training in New York for you?
Right. So I was shocked that I would even match in New York because I have family there. My dad is from there. I applied to a program in New York on a whim, just thinking, well, at least if I match there, I'll know people and I'll have support. My aunt's in Jersey, my brother's in Brooklyn. I'll be good. I didn't get I'm going to match you vibes from this program. It was super average. And it just seemed like,
Mhm.
all right, Anya, well, God bless,
Oh,
So when they matched me,
wow.
I was like, what is going on here? I thought I was going to stay
Yeah.
in Georgia. There was a
Hmm.
time in my life in my early 20s when I wanted to live in New York. Now I'm in my 30s. These knees aren't the same. It's going to be cold.
Oh my goodness.
So it was a shock that I would even
Mhm.
be there, which sets the stage for a lot of how that
Mhm.
experience.
I want to know what made you interested to even pick that. Why did you even pick the institute? I mean, a lot of people, I hear like, again, like the gamut, like, oh, I really was specifically dead set on going to this program versus, oh, well, I just applied to, all 40 of the programs in the subspecialty. And this is the one where I landed at. Like a lot of medical students and graduates, when they're coming out, sometimes it's just location. Like
Yeah,
location, they like the city, they like, maybe the money. I mean, how much you're making as a resident, but is that kind of like how it was for you?
I didn't even research a bunch of programs in the Northeastern
Hmm.
region. I applied to Tufts and I applied to the one where I went, and I got interviews at both and I matched at one of them. I wasn't
Okay.
really doing my due diligence and trying to figure out because I really honestly was trying to cast my net
Yeah.
wide so I would
Mhm.
increase my chances of matching. But I genuinely
Yeah.
did not feel like I would be leaving the state of Georgia for my training. I'm glad I did because of
Got
what I know now and because of what I'm capable of doing now. But I genuinely didn't feel like I was going to go up there.
everything happens for a
Absolutely.
reason.
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell me about some of the challenges, if you feel like you faced any challenges during your training.
I think one of the things about me, which is something we talked about earlier, is that I follow my own path. I had a different path from a lot of the people coming into the program. And I feel like that put kind of a lens on me and put binoculars on me. And that was really uncomfortable. I have a social media presence that I started during medical school, and I used that presence to talk about my journey through medicine, my truth, mine, and
Hmm.
fashion. I love fashion. So there was already people from the program who were looking at my page, who were following it. That's fine. It's public. I keep it public because I use it to make coin. Okay.
Hmm.
That's another
Hmm.
part of
Hmm.
the strategy of life. Different streams of income. And there's nothing wrong with that. So
Yeah.
I also had this diehard interest in women's health. And that's something I
Hmm.
did speak with the program directors about. They knew that well before I came to the program. It was all over my application. We had a special phone call about how to optimize my education so that I could go into a career of women's health. This was nothing new. But when I got to the
Hmm.
program, there were certain comments that were made about me from some of
Hmm.
the who had graduated and some of the residents who did not, questioning
Hmm.
whether or not I should be in family medicine because I dual applied to OBGYN, because I am interested in women's health, because I have an online social media presence. Again, all things that they knew about me before they matched me. And that made my experience start off in a very uncomfortable and unfortunate way. I will say that.
Yeah, that's unfortunately probably more common than the average resident is left to believe. And that
Mhm.
can sometimes color the experience of a trainee in a very negative light, unfortunately, and make their experience, it can be very draining, stressful, and also like the obvious power imbalance is like, how do you continue like trying to do your best when you feel like there's a lens on you, and no matter how you perform there's always going to be like a subjective, like you're not doing something right, or potentially, or like
Yes.
somebody looking at you in a light that's less than optimal, just from a
Yes.
like from a personal standpoint. So how did you
Mhm.
kind of overcome that? Because you were an amazing resident.
Thank you for
I
keeping
mean,
that.
we trained together. You were amazing. Like nobody would have ever known. Like women's health,
Thank
like
you.
advocate through and through. And talking about you at graduation, you were incredible. So how did
Thank you so much.
you overcome all of that? And even to the point where the faculty couldn't even deny that you were such a great clinician by the time you left. So how did you overcome that rocky start and still get what you needed to perform at such a high level?
So I felt like in that situation, I could either crumble and go home or buck up again and this time set some boundaries. That's what it really came down to. I was called into a clandestine meeting to discuss the former residents' concerns and complaints. After all of that, I had time to think. And by the end of the week, I called my own meeting and I set a precedent. I set a standard. I set boundaries. I let it be known that I do have this online presence. I reminded them that I do have this interest in women's health that they had already said that they would commit to assisting me with. And I put those reminders and those boundaries in place. And I let them know that in no way, shape, or form should they ever allow, especially former residents, to have any kind of hold or grip on them that would allow them to call me into a BS meeting to discuss BS. And I let them know that should never, ever, ever happen again. And an apology was rendered, which I appreciated. And we decided from there to focus on the medicine, which is what we're there to focus on anyway. I had 3 years to become the type of clinician that I needed to be. I reminded them what I was there for, and we proceeded from that point. So I think a lot of residents are afraid of the backlash and afraid of
Yes.
speaking up. What could happen? They could just treat me poorly and decide that they're not going to train me or they're not going to give me opportunities. I serve a high and living God. And so that takes a lot of my fears away. That's what I lean on for support. I also have parents who don't play about me. Yes, I'm grown, but still. So
Mm-hmm.
those two things honestly take a lot of fear from me. And I know that's great privilege. I know not everybody has that, but that's how I to go into that meeting with my head held high and set forth some demands and expectations, if you will. And I also leveraged that meeting to ask for something. I felt like a wrong had been done, and I felt like, okay, in order to make it right, I need some things. And so that's when I first asked for a women's health track for my program so I could get even more of that training that I wanted and needed. Okay, y'all want to talk about how I don't belong here. I'm not committed to family medicine. I only want to do women's health. Okay, so you're going to watch me do that and you're going to help me do that. So women's health track, please. And that was the start of our program having a women's health track, which I'm very proud of.
Yeah, it revolutionized my training because I was on track too. And it facilitated getting all kinds of training that I otherwise would not have had exposure to, colposcopy specialization,
Yes.
training in
Coco
surgical
Queen.
terminations. Yes. Nexplanon placements,
Yeah.
priority with procedure clinic. Yeah. So that was a huge win and endeavor on your end. And our program is also benefiting from that. They get
Yeah.
to market that they have these opportunities for trainees to come in and receive. So
Yeah.
that was huge. I think your experience also really speaks to speaking up for yourself and like just people will try the people that they feel like they can try. Like, I think
Yes.
it's very unfortunate, but the people that are sitting with their shoulders shrugged over and, trying to be quiet and trying to be out of the way and, not trying to cause a problem. Those are the ones that unfortunately, once the administration starts to, they feel like they can come down on you, they come down and they don't stop. It's so unfortunate. There have been so many residents
Yes.
that have suffered, maybe wouldn't have if they had spoken up for themselves early on.
Yeah, I do feel like they expected that kind of response from me because while I have a social media presence, once I got there, I think people saw, oh, well, she's not loud and flamboyant around everybody. She's got a quiet presence around people who she doesn't know, a quiet strength. So maybe if we do this, she'll cower down and just get in line. No, never.
It can, on the flip side, I suppose, be scary as, as a trainee.
Hmm.
These people have your life in their hands. Like, you get on the wrong person's side. Doesn't even necessarily have to be your program director or your APD. It could be just one of the faculty attendings you're working with. But unfortunately, it can just be bad commentary from one and it spreads depending on who it is in the faculty. And then that can just, that could be a huge problem for a trainee. So also understand where the fear stems from, not to like
Yes.
undermine that. But yeah, definitely, again, I
Yes.
definitely do stand by having some level of speaking up may
Mhm.
possibly also have a level of protection for trainees. And it also seems like you were very well versed in what your rights were as a resident.
Mhm.
And you made it very clear, like, objectively, you are here as a trainee to learn the art and practice of medicine, and all the other stuff on the sidelines. It's just, I think reiterating that to them also made them maybe see that what they were doing was out of line. So,
Yes, the gossip and the messiness,
mhm.
you do not have to participate in that. You don't. And a lot of the programs that like to spew this idea we're one big happy family, sometimes all that means is we lack boundaries. We don't
Mm,
respect boundaries. And so sometimes you have to be the one to go in and say, no, boundaries are in place for a reason. We are colleagues. We are not family. I'm not even your friend yet. I don't know who you are.
mm,
You don't know who I am.
mhm.
But one thing that
Yeah.
we need to maintain is decorum and respect.
Tell me, do you think that if you were at a different program, do you think that it would have played out differently potentially? Like good or bad, like either way?
I honestly don't know. I think that if I were at another program, I would not have experienced the same level of messiness because not all programs have people who behave that way. So I'll just put that out there.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
also
mhm,
think that if I were at another program, I would not have had so much flexibility to have
mm, mm,
a women's health track, to have all of this elective time where I could do what I wanted to do with it and get the training that I wanted. I was able to
mhm,
have the flexibility to move around and to request certain things that would prepare me for the field I'm interested in. And I know that a lot of other programs do not have that similar a la carte method. I was talking the other day about not going to residency retreat because sometimes the retreat to me meant being alone at Boulevard.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
learned that most programs make you go to residency retreat. So
yeah.
I don't think I would have had the flexibility elsewhere.
That's fair. I also was alone on many a residency retreat because I just need a rest. I
A
just need to sleep.
retreat.
Like, I love that. I love my co-residents. But
Love
yes, I
them
just
down.
love them to death. But listen, I'm just getting off floors. Like,
Yes.
I need rest. Like,
Yes.
I'm so thankful to have heard about and have had the opportunity for you to share your story, most of your
Yeah.
story. I usually like to end these talks with two questions. What advice would you give to trainees coming up behind, pre-med, pre-allied health sciences, somebody basically who is on a less than traditional path, who
Mhm.
is having doubts about their course, their ability to make it to the end? What would you tell them? And then my second question would be, what goals, projects, things for the future do you have in store for yourself or working on currently project wise? We didn't even get into your blog. Like, we didn't even get into it. That'll be my third question, but we'll start with the first two.
So, non traditional pre med students, my biggest piece of advice is the journey will take however long it takes. It will take however long it takes. And you have to determine whether or not you want this bad enough to allow it to take its course. Not everybody is going to go straight from college to med school, and that's okay. There's so much beauty in the journey. There's so much preparation for your career in the journey. And instead of rushing your life away, take it all in, learn what you can, and be the best person, the best clinician that you can be. It can be hard to watch your friends, your family, life passing you by while everybody else is starting their jobs, starting their careers, getting married, having kids. You feel like you're at a standstill. But when it's your time and that time hits, it's going to feel so good because you did not give up and because you did not settle for less than what you really wanted in life. Do not settle for less than what you want. That is not a win. It's not. Settling is not a win unless you shift. If you shift and you pivot on what you want, okay, cool. Everybody's happy. But if not, don't leave your assignment and don't leave your journey early. The only difference between doctors and those who don't become doctors is that the doctors just decided, I'm not going to stop until I get there.
Do you have anything in the pipe works right now?
Well, I guess I can go into question 3 a little bit because I had to pause my content creation journey because of all the transition going on. I moved home, I bought my home, I started my job right away. So now that I'm more settled, I'm going to get back to creating because I am a creative at heart. I love medicine and I love the arts. So I am going to be more consistent with my content creation and my blog.
And shout out your blog so that people know.
surgeryandthecity.com. I'm Surgery and the City on all platforms.
I'll link your blog and your social media details so that those that are following us can reach out and look into your amazing content and your very inspirational blog. I love what you post. I think it's great. I'm always on your stories. I'm just like, how is she doing this? And looking as fabulous as she is. Like, it's amazing to see. Well, I want to thank you again so much, Dr. Bazzell, for being on the show today and giving us an account of your journey. It was truly a pleasure and an honor to hear your insights and your revelations. And I really hope that the audience is able to take in the advice and insights that you were able to provide today. They're really great.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope so too.